Hey, everybody. Today on the podcast, episode 34, I take your emails about dog poop. Doggy poop? Really?
Yeah, you just don't know it yet.
Oof.
Stone's Throw Brewery and those little rocks in piles.
What are they?
What
do they call those things?
You gotta listen.
Okay. Phasers are real and they're shooting down drones? Are you kidding me, man? Is this Star Trek? Star Trek stuff?
Could be. Or it could be real. Apple. Is Apple forcing you to throw out your old computer? I'm doing finger quotes.
I hope not. I don't have enough money in the budget for a new one right now. Hey, so why is chocolate cake called chocolate cake? We're going to get to that today, too.
It's in there.
Okay.
Chevy Blazer, made in Mexico.
Hola, amigos. Hola.
And last but not least, Jay?
Yes. The conspiracy behind the UAW strike. Stay glued to the channel to find out.
Coming up right now.
Hey, welcome into the podcast, the show of shows. What's going on, Keith? How are you, my friend? Been a while.
Mr. President?
President of what? My domain?
Didn't you just get elected to the HOA?
That's...
Everybody, Jay just got, he's the president of his homeowners association now.
And I would like to, since taking over the position, I would like to alert everybody to stay away from it. It's already having an impact on my personal life. In
honor of this, I did some quick Google searching before the show.
Imagine that.
Top two things that an HOA board member or president hears. The top two things that the HOA board hears in terms of number of times they hear it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And number one, I couldn't get which one's more. I think they're about the same. Do you want to guess at this? Or you just want me to tell you?
Just tell me, man, because
Okay. Dog poop issues, a.k.a. pet complaints.
Right.
So, dogs pooping on lawns where they shouldn't, or people not picking it up or whatever. Okay.
Right.
And parking.
You know what? Oddly enough, man, I've been on the board here now for 2 years.
Yeah.
And which is funny because I immediately wanted to jump on the board because I could see that not a lot was really getting done to my liking, according to the rules that I had just been handed. So, but anyway, parking and dog poop have not come up once. Actually, it's a pretty sane community.
All right, well, we're going to change that. So send your HOA questions / complaints to go to partscounterguru.com, click on the Ask Us a Question tab, and I will make sure that Jay gets a copy of those.
This is going to be interesting because I could certainly learn from it, no doubt about it. I was thrown into the fire with our last annual meeting that was a few weeks back, and so this is going to be an interesting... Automatically, the insurance comes up for renewal, and we have this $5,000 project that needs approval, and I've got to sort through all this stuff. And I had a guy call, the Comcast guy couldn't figure out where the main box was to get this one resident's cable working, and it's just, So who do I get a phone call from? Our property management company asking me if I knew where that stuff was, and of course I do. So. But anyway, I had to help some people out. So that's saving the day, man. That's all I do. That's my job. It's my job. So.
If you say so.
Yeah. So what hat do you have on there? I'm noticing what is that?
Oh, it's just from the summer camping trip from Glacier National Park.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, Glacier, 1910.
Yeah, that was the year
Right
it was
on.
founded.
Right on, man. Right on.
So you're the one with the comment worthy hat on today, I think, right? What you got?
yes, this is Stone's Throw.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
There's a name. Now, here's a bonus round trivia for you.
Yeah.
Here, hang on. All right. The name for the little rocks that people stack up like on your hat there on the logo.
Why do you do this to me, man? Why do you do this to me?
There's a name for those.
They're stacked stones, man.
No. We go around in the national parks and
Yeah.
we find these things like they do them like outside of campsites. The Park Service actually gets kind of PO'd at you for doing it because you're moving stuff around in the
Right.
the park.
Yeah.
And they give you the whole, if everybody did it, there'd be no rocks left in the park. But there is a name for those.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. If you know that, leave a comment in the. If you're watching this on YouTube, just leave us a comment.
And
tell us what they're called.
And Rothmeyer, you are not eligible for that.
Well, he's gonna go look it up. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ask him today what it is and see if he can teach me. Now, all right.
I digress. So Stone's Throw.
Stone's Throw Brewing. Yeah, they're out of they're out of Fairhaven up outside of Bellingham, which is the big college town up to the north there with Western Washington University. And they were at Beer on the Pier, which is an annual Brewers Fest that we have here in town. It's like we call it the end of the season Brewers Fest, and they were one of about 50 different brewers. And it's kind of funny how I acquired the hat. You don't expect to go, to one of those and walk away with a killer hat. But
can I just say that this is where I need to stop you. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, if you're you do expect that. If you walk away, if you go to one of these shindigs and you walk away with nothing like noteworthy and no story, that's something is wrong.
This is true, man. But funny enough, I mean, my wife's been around me long enough to know that I don't take no for an answer, and neither does she when it comes to these hats. But she was actually over at I had sampled their beer earlier, and I've been to their brewery many times. I love it. It's a neat little spot. They were I think they opened in like 2016, and it's just a very laid back and casual environment. They've taken the containers that you see on the container ships, the used containers.
Oh yeah.
They've completely made like this labyrinth of little spots that you can go chill and go up on top of the decks and stuff, and it's all encompassed inside of these varying little rooms.
That's
and
cool.
It's very well done.
Here's what I've learned from watching like Hollywood movies. Number one, if I ever need to like hold somebody like prisoner, you use one of those.
Right.
And you do it in a like shipyard where there's hundreds of them, so they can never find. Only the secret location to the right one, kind of deal.
Right.
And the other thing is, if you ever need to build a secret lair, like you take one of those and you put it like on as the entrance. The same deal, right? Like same shipyard, except this one never moves. And when you go in it, there's like a bunker underneath it, your secret lair. So those are the two things that from watching Hollywood movies I know about the shipping containers.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a great idea. I mean, people are making houses out of them now, little cabins and stuff, and it's a great idea. I think it is. Good repurposing. But anyway, these guys are great. The wife went up to him and asked him, if they were selling the hat. It's the only hat these guys had.
Yeah.
And one of the representatives there said, "No, but we're going to be giving it away at the end of the day."
And you went,
and she's like, "No, I'm not even there." I mean, she's talking to him. My wife's talking to him at this point, and she says, "Do you like the hat?" And she goes, "Well, my husband would love it. I do think it's cool. He collects hats. He's has a podcast. He talks about all this stuff." And she's just like, "Here." So she just gave us the hat, man. So
this is okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but have you want to throw out a couple of the beers that you like of theirs? I'll give you a minute to do that because
you know me, dude. I'm a go-to. Their flagship IPA, neighborhood IPA, is really, really good. That's the one I had there, I believe. this, and you should bring up their website because you keep going off on this. I want to be beer namer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
they've got some great.
When I grow up.
They've got some great beer names. For example, they've got one called Flat Penny.
Okay.
And it's named after flattening pennies on the local train track.
Yeah. Right.
It's a flagship pale ale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty neat, man. But they're not like all over the place. They do a lot of pale ales, a lot of IPAs, but they do get into some of your more traditional darks and lagers, experiments, with those quite a bit. And here's one you'll probably like. It's called $2 Porter.
Okay.
Yeah. It's and I think you would like this. It's a hearty and warming porter, rich and lightly burnt black and chocolatey grain flavors are balanced between a malty sweetness and a minimal hop profile. This porter both substantially is more technical than the mountain biking trail from which it derives its name and has been theorized to be the cure to a common cold. So this area is like right at the foothills of really literally at the foothills of the Cascade Mountains up in the northern part of Western Washington there. And you can be in the mountains in like 45 minutes, man. And so that's why they named the brewery Stone's Throw, because they're just a stone's throw away. And that's what they like to talk about. I mean, in an hour you can be there. They have a annual, I think it's Ski to Sea festival that they have, and they have a marathon where I think they're running down out of the mountains and they're biking and they're hiking, and then they get down to the coast and they're swimming, and it's a pretty cool festival, man. So always a lot of beers that time of year as well.
Well, I mean, there's always a lot of beers every time of year. I mean, I guess it depends on who you are, but for me,
right.
Okay, so didn't we have a like trending news topic concerning
we did, yeah,
craft beers? And
yeah.
Hey, actually, wait, let me set this up.
Are you gonna do that?
Hey, Jay, didn't we have some craft beer in the news?
Yes, we did. So you know what, man, the craft brew industry, you and I are big fans of it, right?
Yeah,
right?
Yes,
we are. I mean, it's quite obvious with the podcast number of hats that I wear on my yeah. So, but there was a story that was just released like I don't know, maybe a week and a half ago, and the headline was craft breweries add more than $79 billion to the U.S. economy. That's pretty incredible, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's America's thirst for craft beer is making a huge economic impact, and a new report reveals the craft brewing industry contributed $79.1 billion to the U.S. economy and was responsible for nearly 560,000 jobs, according to the 2018 Economic Impact Report of the Brewers Association. The trade association represents more than 5,000 craft breweries in the USA. Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So on a personal note here, I take great delight in hearing that.
Yeah.
And as a beer fan, but I've got to explain why. So Jay, I grew up in the Midwest. You know this.
Oh yeah.
Outside of St. Louis, home of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
Right.
Hang
on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we would watch the Clydesdales, like in the playoffs and the World Series, and they'd bring the wagon with the Dalmatian and the super what?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Oh, right. That's right. We're in World Series season
right.
now. Gotcha. Yeah, the only game that matters. Gotcha.
So, they'd run him around the track, and they used to call him the old man. That was August Busch II. He'd be on the beer wagon waving to everybody in his red coat and all that. Yep, right. So, of course, Busch Stadium named after their, one of their beers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how else to explain this except to say that there was a certain amount of local pride, and I had friends whose dads worked for that brewery or worked in the distribution system.
Mm-hmm.
And when the decision was made, what's it been, like 10 years ago now or whatever, to sell to InBev, which is a European organization,
right?
It was just kind of a real punch in the gut because any loyalty that I ever had to buying an Anheuser-Busch product because it was local,
right?
Now it's out the window. I don't care. So the fact that we've got all these craft breweries popping up that are, to be honest, like a lot of them are quite a bit more refined in their taste and the palate and all that. Good. Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
Teach them a lesson, man. You know why? Because these beers are made in America. America.
Right. America, man. And
where's Budweiser made? I don't know.
I don't know, man. But you know what? InBev has made it a priority, it seems, to try to go and gobble up a lot of these smaller craft brewers.
They do. Yeah, they do.
Some of those smaller craft brewers are just giving up and letting go, but while some are really kind of fighting it and making sure that during that, through that agreement process that they're not screwing around with the integrity of the recipes, the labeling, the artwork, and those sorts of things. I mean, I think Space Dust is from Elysian, that's just out of Seattle.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, 2 years ago when they took over, my wife and I were down in Seattle for a concert at the Showbox, and we were going to have some dinner first, and we wanted to go to the Elysian tap room, and they were having this big party upstairs, beautiful, beautiful old building, old room. And we were asking one of the servers what was going on. They said, that's the folks from Budweiser. I'm like, well, what are they doing here? Well, they're having their conference in Seattle. Yeah, right. They were signing the deal. That's what they were doing. And it turns out, like 6 months later, we go down there to another concert, and we were going to go in and go grab a beer because we really liked the tap room. Closed.
Of course, yeah. So I've got another craft brewery that's getting very, very large story with some beer that I stumbled on that I really like, but that's going to be on the next episode. Tune in next time to hear about that one. So
more beer.
So okay. So
I love the community. Put it that way. It's a strong sense of community ownership by these employees that work for these local craft brewers. They do very well for themselves, and through distribution network here locally, the Western Washington beer is really taken off. Eastern Washington as well. So
you know what? I think there's another secret society kind of thing going on with you hopheads. You guys that like the IPA, the hoppy beer. You want. This is what I've been thinking a lot about. This. You want to here's my theory.
Go ahead, theory, right. Man.
So, you guys swear that you're not just drinking IPAs for the high alcohol content. All of you.
It's true.
Yet, this is my interpretation of a guy that loves IPAs. You ready? So this is not beer, but just for the, All right.
Okay, for those of you who can just imagine what you're about to see.
All right, here goes. This is the average IPA lover drinking an IPA. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Ooh, that was great beer.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So here's what I think. This is my theory, right? So, and for those of you that can't see it, I made this huge wince when I took a hit. So
yeah.
I think
I've seen that face before when you've had an IPA.
So I think you guys go and you sit around at these craft brew fests and it's like, do you ever play the game where you punch somebody in the shoulder and the one that winces first has to okay.
Oh yeah.
So this is that. This is you guys sitting around in a circle drinking your IPA, and if there's one of you that winces first, he's he gets punished. He's out,
Right.
It's a game. It's to see who can. Well, I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, but not all of them are high gravity like that, man. They're the alcohol content. It's not all up there. They're usually the good ones, in my opinion, will range anywhere between about 4.8% and about 6.8%. Once you start getting over that, man, oof.
I would agree that not all IPAs are super high. In fact, tune in next week to find out which one I discovered and love.
Oh yeah,
that?
I was really surprised. So, and what did I tell you? That you know what that means then, right? That means that your palate is maturing.
Nah, I never said I don't like IPAs. I just said I'm not an IPA guy.
Okay, well, I don't like all IPAs.
Nobody ever listens to me.
Yeah, well, you got an awful lot coming out of there, man. I mean, it's hard to keep up with you.
All right.
So anyway.
So speaking of stuff that I awful lot coming out of there and things that I talk about. See, we're always talking about sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
Star Trek kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So the U.S. government bought their first phaser.
Keith.
Yeah.
The force is.
Well, that's Star Wars. We're talking Star Trek phasers, you know.
I understand
Starfleet.
that, but they have Starfleet and whatever. They all have phasers, man. And they all have some weird dude talking like this.
Yeah, well, it's a space opera. It's required.
Right.
Okay, so this is I guess another example of life imitating art. This is coming from the BBC. Now, why we are getting news about American military operations from the British, I'm not sure, but BBC.com. The U.S. Air Force has just taken delivery of Phaser, that's the name of it, a microwave-based weapon from defense giant Raytheon. It fires from a disc resembling a giant satellite, like a satellite dish kind of thingy, and it sits on top of one of your shipping containers that we were just talking about. But of course, they paint it like desert camo or, coyote tan or whatever to make it, and it wipes out the digital elements inside of a drone. So they are shooting drones down with phasers.
Right.
Now,
so it's not. So it's just. This is not like a physical attack, but they're doing it through
microwaves.
Microwaves. Yes.
Yeah. It's a phaser beam.
Right. It's knocking it out.
Scrambling or cooking the electronics inside the drones. Now, to be clear, when I'm talking about drones, I'm not talking about the quadcopter your neighbor bought that he's using to take pictures of your wife in the swimming pool. I'm talking about an actual strike unmanned aircraft that's used like in battle theaters in in the Middle East that
which are
Air Force pilots are flying unmanned, right?
Yeah, and they can fly those things from way away.
Oh, like halfway around the world.
Halfway around the world, yeah, in the comforts of their little bunker there. So, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. Now, where did this information come from again?
It's from the BBC.
Yeah,
it's
interesting.
It's out there. The defense contractor is Raytheon, and they're making a phaser.
Yeah, and I think the reason why you're probably hearing it out of BBC too, though, is because of all of our interest in the Gulf over there, the Persian Gulf and everything, and that's where this is coming from. Wow, we've come to this, huh? Interesting. So, man, there are guys. Pay attention. The way we're advancing in technology. There's jobs out there. Man, that would be cool to be able to. Just being just flying drones commercially, or being a guy who's looking out for drones and sending out the phasers. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is the way everything sort of starts, right? So the first generation of these things is gigantic, right? It's literally a shipping container. It's huge. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna like pull that in with an Army Jeep. Okay.
Right.
It's gotta take some maneuvering to get that thing into location.
Right.
But as future generations of these products come out, this is true of any technology. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and before you know it, you got your handheld, Captain Kirk running around with his little phaser where he can, set the stun, and
Do you watch fellow podcaster or listen to fellow podcaster Joe Rogan?
Occasionally, but you probably are going to ask me something that I'm not aware of.
Well, he's been talking quite a bit over the last month or two about, maybe even longer, about the UFOs and.
Oh yeah, he's been doing that. Is he hot and heavy on it right now?
Right now,
okay.
And it's been quite interesting about technological advancements that we've made and how quickly all this stuff is happening right before our eyes, man. And it's I would encourage anybody to just give it a listen, because I was drawn in, man, the other morning. So
well, he's interesting for sure.
Yeah. So where does this lead us with this? With this, I mean, what's next? What's the next invention to shoot drones down or take drones out of commission? You think outside of this is a good way to say, well, who did that? Because it's kind of hard to point a finger when you don't have evidence, right?
But that's true. Yeah. I mean, if it's not visible, right? I
Correct.
mean, right now
Yeah.
you look for the shipping container and in the middle of
Yeah.
the desert, but yeah, when they get smaller, I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Interesting. So what's up next?
Let's just
You got
hope
another
that
one?
let's just hope they're not getting their software updates from Apple when it does get time to update,
Yeah.
right?
You want to elaborate
Well,
on?
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
You
that-
want to elaborate
yeah,
a little bit on that?
Yeah, well, you had that problem with your phone. Kind of, how's that going? By the way, you had gotten iOS 13 and it was a little bit unstable the week it came out on your phone.
Slightly unstable. It.
Have they patched it?
I've gotten 2 more updates since then.
Okay.
And it has gradually gotten better. So yes, that is certainly going in a better direction. But for how long, I don't know until they come up with some other something.
Well, so here's why I'm ripping on Apple. This isn't anything new. If you've listened to this podcast at all, you know I don't hate Apple. I'm just disappointed lately with kind of their direction or lack
Right.
thereof. So this is an article from Forbes. Now, you can go on the internet at any given time and you can find hundreds of articles that are going to, whatever Apple comes out with next, and there's going to be 100 articles in support of it, and then there's going to be 100 articles that are critical of it. And that's not unusual. But what I thought was a little bit interesting was the fact that this was a story from Forbes, right? Forbes, the Fortune 500 company that talks
Right.
about. Okay. So basically, Apple has released their latest OS for their computers, not their phones or
right.
tablets.
MacBooks and
Right.
iMacs, OS.
MacBook Pros, Mac
Right.
Pros, MacBooks, MacBook
Right.
Airs, whatever. There's so many now I can't keep up. But it's called Catalina, and it has broken a lot of software that is not made by Apple. And the reason for that is Apple has forcefully discontinued 32-bit applications. Now, without getting into the technical weeds on the difference between a 32-bit application and a 64-bit application, it basically has to do with, what's an easy way for me to explain this? The level of computing power and security that the processor is capable of transmitting back and forth to the application. I got way more technical there than I wanted
Yeah,
to.
it gets. You'd have to get way down in the weeds.
Okay, here, let's just think about it like this. We talk about cars all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
V8, 8-cylinder, 4-cylinder, right?
Right.
What's the difference?
We got. Yeah, I mean,
Twice
number
as many?
cylinders is twice as. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, lot of similarities there, more or less. You could look at both if you want and say, yeah, there's twice as much going on in a V8 as there is in a 4-cylinder. Okay, that's
right.
kind of similar. All right. So Apple has been warning that they were going to do this for a while, but it still kind of caught a lot of companies off guard. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. I have a 3D printer. You know this, right? And I'm talking to I had an issue last week, and I'm talking to the company, and the guy goes, yeah, we literally have a problem now where everybody that has taken this Catalina update that's using one of our printers, we have an app that won't work. They can't even set up their printer if they've updated to Catalina because they're still running the 32-bit app.
Wow. So does it basically render those things useless at that point?
Kind of. So in the automotive world, it doesn't work unless you can go back and run it in either an emulator or an older version of the Mac OS. And see,
So in other
Apple
words-
doesn't really let you. They make it very difficult for you to go back.
So the application just doesn't start, just like an engine.
Yeah. So think about this. So it's literally the same as like that V8 engine or that 4-cylinder. As somebody going, oh yeah, no, it's not gonna run on unleaded gasoline anymore. Sorry, you're gonna have to switch to. And you're like, what? Like I don't.
Right.
Where am I supposed to get that? Right? Like
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
this is the interesting spin that Forbes puts on it. Time and again, at every keynote and presentation, Tim Cook and his team at Apple stress how they support their customers, how customers drive everything they do, and that's why everyone has worked so hard to give them the best possible experience. That sounds familiar, right? If you've ever watched one of those keynotes.
Yes. Yep.
It's a shame that the recent sledgehammer removing 32-bit support from macOS Catalina has severed that bond of trust for many of Apple's customers. So, yeah. And, I mean, I just laid out why, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're running older and understand that older doesn't necessarily mean broken or there's security issues with it. It's just, I've got a, lawnmower that doesn't run on this new fuel, and now you're just basically telling me too bad.
Right.
And that lawnmower might be 3 years old, 2 years old.
It's forced obsolescence is what you pretty much call it, right?
So now the argument that Apple's going to use is, well, look, we can't do some of the things that we need to be able to do if we don't work for 64-bit support. But I think we all sort of realize in the tech world, yeah, but you didn't have to discontinue support for 32-bit. That's the thing that, it's great if you want to run your stuff on 64-bit, but there's no reason you need to discontinue support for the other stuff.
Right. It's kind of a crappy thing for Apple to do, really. They basically are turning their backs on some of those developers and their customers, their customer base, man.
Well, and it forces everyone to play by their rules. So if you're a software developer, for example, Facebook or Adobe that makes Photoshop for photographers or Premiere for video editing, Apple can go, well, you're going to play by our rules or you're not going to work on our computers.
Right.
And they can do that now because they're the major player.
Yeah. Well, I was a little upset, because it says the removal of iTunes. That's happening. We knew that was coming.
Kind of a little bit of a sneaky conspiracy there, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really upset about that myself.
They're forcing you to go to their new Apple Music software platform.
Exactly. And I don't know how this is going to work for me, but you know that I have one of the older iMacs that actually has the drive in the side where you can take a CD and dump it in your library.
Throw it out, Jay. You got to throw it out and buy a new one.
Well, what do I do with all the information that I have on there now? I guess I can just back it up and then...
honestly, if you're an environmentalist, this kind of stuff, you need to really, this should be really just get you fired up because they are essentially forced obsolescence, like you said, Jay. They're kind of forcing you to get rid of the stuff that maybe isn't ready to be tossed out yet.
Right, and where does this stuff go? That's we were talking about this the other day with the production of batteries. And some of the environmental implications that's having right now with the production of these things, and some of the stuff that goes into these computers is highly toxic. Like for example, you can't just take a flat screen TV and just go dump it in the trash.
Well, you can.
You can.
But if you get caught doing that. Right? I mean...
Right. Exactly. But it's a problem. So they have special locations where you have to go, which most of the time are very inconvenient for a consumer to go try to find this place. Luckily, where I live here, we have a central location that has its departments that accept all in one location, which is really nice. It's very well done. And, larger cities, what's their biggest problem? They just don't have the room. I mean... you got barges and barges of trash sitting out in the harbor, from these big cities that are getting shipped off to China, So anyway, yeah, it's a big deal, man, with this, forcing obsolescence because I don't know how most people are most people don't deal well with change, period. That's just a human nature. So they're going to tend to say, the heck with this, man. I'm getting rid of it. I'm going to go buy a new one. And that's what I believe Apple's probably counting on.
Hey, would you mind, whenever we talk, you're always looking from the other direction. And today, for some reason, you're facing the other side, and it's really bothering me. I can't stand the change. Oh, wait, what were we just talking about? Sorry, man. Sorry.
Oh, I get you. You think I'm position change there, huh?
I'm just messing with you. Yeah. So change or else. That's the message, right?
I mean, that's it. It's just the craziest thing, man. I have and as expensive as these electronics are too, man, what the heck, People are just, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start getting some sort of an allowance from the powers that be to help us.
Next, they're going to be charging $1,000 for cell phones, right? Oh, wait. They're already doing that.
Right. Which is insane. Insanity, man. I know. I'm one of their latest customers because mine kind of dogged out on me. So, anyway.
All right, man. I feel like we're in full blown conspiracy theory mode today, but that's okay. I loves me a good conspiracy. How about we just do a random break in this program and do to talk about a couple things like maybe an upcoming drawing.
Yeah, you want to get to that?
Sure.
And how we're going to do this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I think for the next drawing, we're not going to tell you. This is we do these at random, so we're not going to tell you what it is. But for this episode, to enter to win this episode right here, which is episode 34 of the Counter Show, our podcast, if you're listening to it on Apple, or any of the Google Play,
Google
Stitcher,
Podcast, Stitcher,
but we're on
Spotify.
all of them.
We're on all of them.
But to be entered to win for the next drawing, go to this episode on YouTube, which again is number 34, and just leave a constructive comment in the comment section. You could put your HOA question in there for Jay if you want. That's fine, but just enter some sort of comment that's... Look, I always go back to Roadhouse, right? The movie, that documentary Roadhouse.
Swayze.
Be nice. There's so many life lessons in that movie, man. Be nice.
Oh, yeah.
Be nice.
Okay.
Right?
Footloose, too, yeah.
I mean, we're just... traffic and driving in general, be nice.
Okay.
When somebody does something, okay. So just in the comment section, just remember Patrick Swayze, be nice, okay?
Yeah.
Leave a comment. We will then announce on the next podcast, which will give you about a week to get your comment in from the time this comes out, and we'll pick a winner from that list, and we'll announce it on the next podcast. That was. You could have done such a better job than I did, but yeah.
I don't know, man. I was unprepared to deliver the news, that information the way you did. So now, I think it worked out.
So now that I've thoroughly confused everybody by mentioning, yeah, right. In a roundabout sort of way. Do you want to just kind of go down the list of where to find us and how to find that podcast info? And if you're, for example, if you're watching on YouTube but you'd rather listen, there's a way to do that. And
well, yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to do, you can go right to our website, and we have a link to all the podcasts right there, but you can check us out on Apple Podcasts.
What's that link called? First of all, what's our website?
It's partscounterguru.com.
And if I was going to that said website, and I was looking for a link that had like all the podcast listings on it, they'd probably name that something like...
I think it's like good luck with your podcast link searching. No, sorry. It's a drop-down menu, guys, and it's podcast links there.
It's just called podcast links? Well, that's a horrible name. Why would you name a link that contains the links to podcast links?
Well, probably for the same reason why you would name a chocolate cake a chocolate cake, because it's a chocolate cake. Okay, if that makes sense, I don't know. We're totally going around and around and around. I feel like I'm playing Cowboys and Indians right now. So, but no, you can go to like Keith said, all those platforms, and just remember If you're not going through our website, just you can search on Parts Counter Gurus, and you will find us on every platform out there. So please make sure you do that. So,
all right, nice. You got one more news article right before we get to
one more news article. I do, and it's this is direct effect of some things that have been occurring. General Motors they came out with the new Chevrolet Blazer. You guys are fully aware of how much Keith loves that vehicle, and how much it's probably going to impact the 4x4 off-roading market, given how much of an impact it had.
We did a podcast on, I think it was the one right before this one on the Bronco, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about how Ford needs to get certain things right for this Bronco to be successful.
Correct.
And the Blazer's already out, and if you don't know this, you're probably underage 12, but there was a Blazer before this one, and they're bringing the Blazer namesake back, right? So,
right.
But the Blazers before this current generation were more or less designed to be off-road vehicles.
Right. I mean, they competed with Ford.
Yeah. It was
the Bronco. I mean, it was designed.
General Motors or Chevrolet's version of the off-road vehicle. Used to be when it was originally released. Right. And it was for GM lovers, that they thought it was an awesome vehicle. I tended to lean more towards the Ford Bronco, but but if you watch, basically even the commercials now for the new Blazer tell you like that's not what this is about. This new one is more of a it's an urban assault vehicle, right?
Oh yeah. It's an urban assault vehicle. That's right. Hey, if you have that need and you have to get to soccer practice, man, this is your ride.
Yeah.
It's replacing the minivan, I think. Maybe I don't know. Well, most of them have, right? So, but the problem that GM has had with this thing, the production of this thing is at the Ramos plant in Mexico. And how do you pronounce that? Is it Erzepe?
Let me get this thing open.
Ramos Erzepe. It's Arizpe. I'm not so good with the pronunciation.
I'm gonna go with you on this, mostly because then if it's wrong, nobody will blame me.
Typically, there's not too many words that I can't properly pronounce. But anyway, it was a highly controversial move anyway. Moving that vehicle down there. But because of the recent UAW strikes, they've had to halt production of that because of the part shortages. But now there's supposedly a tentative deal that has been reached, and the strike won't end until everything's ratified. I mean, they're still striking as we speak. So
now let's back up a second. So this Blazer is being built in Mexico. Okay,
correct. That is correct.
If you're an entry level conspiracy theorist, right? Meaning like it's not going to be a huge controversy. It's going to be kind of easy to see where this could fall in terms of a conspiracy, right?
Yep.
You put an automotive manufacturing plant in another country. Then the rules and agreements that you have with certain unions in your country, namely the United States, may not apply.
That is correct.
In another country.
Well,
right?
It doesn't. I mean, in fact, it goes on to say the plant itself has been running throughout the month-long strike since its workers are not represented by the UAW, which
they are non-union workers.
They are non-union workers, man, and they go on to say the usage of cheaper labor in Mexico is one of the most contentious parts of the UAW's relationship with GM right now. Anyway, when the company went to build it down there, it was a big deal because I think it was slated to go to, I guess, Lordstown, but they opted to go down there to Mexico for that. Wow, man.
So
that's a mess.
Yeah,
that's a mess.
And I really don't see this whole situation getting better anytime soon. I think that was another lesson that I learned from Roadhouse is things are going to get a little bit worse before they get better, but.
I think it's the case. I think that's where we're at right now.
Ford is also a union company. I mean, basically, all the big three are Ford, Chrysler, General Motors. And these kinds of scenarios where they're doing production in other countries, that's not going to go away. That's probably going to increase in terms of the number of vehicles that are being assembled, is what they like to say, outside of the United States for the UAW shops. So this is now in this case, and I think you just said this, they're having to halt production of the Blazer not because it sucks, right?
Yeah, not because it sucks, not because they don't have people to assemble them.
They can't get the parts.
The components that are used to assemble this thing is they have a shortage of it right now,
right?
And that's directly related to the UAW
because they're coming from
strike.
UAW
they're coming
assembly
from the
areas.
UAW
All
assembly areas. That's right. Yep.
So, yeah, and if GM would play their cards right, they could sell the heck out of this thing because it would be like the only vehicle that they could continue to make and put on the lot during the strike, right? And then you artificially inflated your Blazer sale numbers, and you could go back and go, look, everybody loves it, which may not be the case, right?
We talked about this on the last podcast about the effects of this strike that's had an impact on the production of the new C8 Corvette, how it's been delayed. They took a lot of orders, but they're not delivering. In fact, they're still trying to finish up delivery on the C7s that they had that had already been purchased, and so it's a big deal, man. But that kind of segues right into what we want to talk about today.
It does,
and
which is how to say Blazer in Spanish, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. This is a sticking point. Some of the issues that are still going on, and I told Keith this morning before we came on air here that the more I read about everything going on and just peeling the layers back of how complicated this agreement is, it still continues to boil down to a few things, essentials that we as the workforce in the U.S. Want to have, which is a fair wage, along with great benefits. So some of the issues that still sit out there would be share of healthcare costs, temporary workers, because that's been a big sticking point, bringing temporary workers in. The wage increases and the way in which you get to that point, to get to higher wages. And then building more product in the United States. I think I read somewhere that part of this was based on, it was like 55 facilities around the country, or maybe even around the world, were part of this cutback.
Let's back up just a second, and I've got this page open because I was ready to kind of go into this. So UAW, United Auto Workers, okay?
Right.
Union of Auto Workers, okay? For those of you that don't know, most employees that are working in assembly plants that are assembling the vehicles are union employees. If you work for General Motors or Chevrolet, Ford, or Chrysler here in the United States, okay?
Right.
And I started looking into this in terms of, is there a clearly defined list of which cars are assembled by union workers and which vehicles are not? And it's not that clear cut, but in general, a lot of the Nissan products are non-union, a lot of the Toyota products are non-union, a lot of the Honda products are assembled non-union. Volkswagens that are assembled in the United States are non-union. BMWs that are assembled in the United States, I think, are also non-union in general. So, so people that are ready to jump my, stuff over getting one of these wrong. I'm just saying, generally speaking. Now, unions, and I've worked for a union before. This is not a show on whether unions are good or bad. So just don't. If that's what you were hoping for,
no,
it's not going to happen. But what a union promises its members, which are those employees that work for a union organization,
right?
Basically are things like Jay was just talking about in this article. So better working environment, certain job protections, meaning they can't just, the union that I used to work for, there was a particular person that literally I think got fired 3 times, but every time that she was let go, her employer did not follow a certain protocol, and so she got her job right back. So the union offers certain protections to keep its job security in a sense, in that, they can't just fire you at will without reason. Okay?
Right.
So there's things like that. There's certain benefits that you're promised, whether those are health benefits or work benefits or whatnot. Okay? Mm-hmm. In general, if you work for a non-union assembly plant, maybe Hyundai or somebody like that, typically your take-home pay is a little bit higher. Because if you work for a union employee, you have a certain amount of dues that go to the union out of every paycheck. Okay,
that's correct. Yep.
Now, I'm just trying to set the table for this. Okay, so when you think about sort of union versus non-union, just know that ultimately what this boils down to is, from the manufacturer standpoint, so from Ford's perspective or GM's perspective, how much is it going to cost me to make that vehicle? And they have to factor in the expense of that union wage.
That's right.
And if Honda can come in here and do it for less money because they're not paying a union wage, that makes them a competitive threat.
Right.
Okay. All right. So now I'm sort of, there you go. So
yeah, and that's exactly right. And that's why you see GM and Ford and Chrysler moving these plants to Mexico and
right.
Yep. And it's a direct impact.
Why would I ever, if I'm Chevy, why would I ever want to make something in Mexico? Well, it comes down to the cost of production per unit, right?
Right. We talked about this on the last podcast, which is, in this day and age, the cost of a vehicle is so expensive with the amount of electronics that are going into these things and just a number of other things. It's strange to me that you got all these vehicles. I mean, they're ranging in price from, I don't know, the average vehicle is what, like 25 to say 45,000. That's an average vehicle these days. I mean, and you think about it, if you're making $15 an hour, if you're making $15 an hour, how can you afford to own that
this
vehicle?
This is where we talked about, now they're going out to like 6 and 7 year financing on brand new vehicles for that very reason, right? That was exactly a previous podcast.
But it ties into this. It's kind of funny that we've kind of carried over a little bit, and I didn't expect that this strike would even be going on by the time we podcasted again, and here we are. And I think this is the longest running strike in history so far. I think they're over 36 days.
Since 1970. I think there was.
Is that right?
Since 1970, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And I think that GM has lost in excess of $2 billion since then. Since they started this strike.
Right. So do you have that list of things that you started with that talked about what the union is specifically trying to negotiate for?
Yeah.
Okay. So just...
Well, let me go over one of the...
Yeah, okay.
Let me give you one, like healthcare, for example. I mean, which is a big deal. It's a big deal for everybody.
Right.
Affordable healthcare is, we all need that. We all need healthcare. So it's a big sticking point. So GM's initial offer on September 14th to the UAW called for members to pay 15% of their health care costs. They currently pay about 3%. Now, 15% versus 3%, that's a big deal.
When you have that many employees, absolutely.
That's a big deal, man. So it's far less than the average workers, 28%. Now, you and I have felt that in the private sector where we're paying a lot more than...
How's 100% hit you?
Exactly. So the UAW balked at GM's offer, and the company walked it back to 3%. But the topic is it's back up for discussion. GM is again suggesting that UAW members pick up more of the cost for health care. Those specifics aren't readily available, but GM said it pays about $900 million a year for U.S. hourly employees in health care.
That can literally translate to thousands more per vehicle that you buy if they end up paying the 15%. Now, you would mention something else in this, which was temporary employees, right? So those guys don't get, if you're temporary, a lot of times you don't get a lot of the benefits, right?
Well, right.
So that's a game that GM's playing, is they're going, well, we'll just hire you on as a contractor or a temporary employee, and then we don't have to pay benefits. So they're still building it here in the United States, but they're keeping their production costs down by not paying out union due or union expenses, I should say, on that employee, right?
Right. That's right. That's exactly right, man. And they had said that they wanted to create a process for temporary workers to become permanent employees. Let's see, the expanded use of temps is one of the concessions that the union made in 2007.
And now they're trying to swing back the other way on that.
Absolutely,
Okay.
and I get it. Currently, some temps remain at that status for years and earn less, $15 to $19 per hour, and get fewer benefits than permanent workers and get no paid time off. The union has great passion around the topic, they say, while GM is adamant that it needs more temps to help it be competitive with foreign-based automakers. That's the key right there.
Right.
It's the foreign-based, non-union automakers. Like, for example, Alabama has a ton of them. There's a lot of foreign-based
Hyundai plant that I drive past all the time. Right.
You've got Hyundai, Honda. Subaru is all of. You got VW in Tennessee.
Interestingly enough, and I ran into this. Somebody has a Subaru. One of these is built in Indiana, and I know that there's some that are built in Alabama. They do not have the UAW stickers on them. Now, Subaru is owned by General Motors, correct?
Are they?
I thought so.
I didn't know. Did Subaru get purchased by them? I know that
I might be wrong.
Well, let's find out. That's a good one.
But, no, they sold the controlling stake to Toyota.
That I was going to go there because they had that crossover vehicle where Toyota's using the Subaru Boxer motor. And
right.
What was that? Like FRS or FRZ?
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's why it kind of
looks like about 10 years ago, Toyota bought a controlling stake in Subaru. So
yeah, that makes sense.
My bad.
No, it's all good. But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's a lot of cross pollination that goes on with these automakers, and for good reason. It's a door into the U.S. for some foreign markets, and then it also helps the domestic automakers, ease their way into that segment of the market as well. And what I found interesting when we were beginning this conversation, remember when we had the big housing crash and we had the bailouts going on in 2007?
Yep.
And they said that one of the main reasons for that was the high cost of oil prices. So they retooled a lot of these plants to kind of back down on the pickup truck and large SUV markets and started focusing on more economical, smaller, better gas mileage type vehicles. But what I find interesting now is here we are over 10 years later, almost 10 years later, and the segment has gone now from sedans
180
to more
degree.
It's weird for me, but so this is the kind of cyclical thing that goes on in this industry, and that's where we're at right now. And we need to pay close attention to the EV market, and that's another change that's so breathing down our necks.
Okay,
right now.
Now there's a little bit of a conspiracy theory kind of scenario with the EV market and this whole union strike and all that. Now, but I want to. You actually kind of opened my eyes to this. I need to take a moment here, Jay, and let's see, who do I want to address? So, I think I want to talk to General Motors and the UAW. Okay, so
let's hear it.
Here, hang on. I gotta do this like I did to the folks at Ford. So, here we go. All right. UAW, General Motors, listen up. Okay, guys. I understand you all want what's best for each of you, okay? But if we don't find a way to work this out, there's not going to be any cars left to sell because GM's already taken one bailout from the government in the past 20 years. And I'm just not sure that if we keep trying to get blood from a turnip, it's going to go well. So maybe we not ask for, 50% or 50, some crazy amount of healthcare. Maybe we just kind of go for a few percent increase, something like that, Don't get greedy. I'm just saying, right? Because if you got to sell that Chevy Blazer, which already sucks, for $5,000 more than the Toyota Highlander, they're probably not going to buy it. I'm just saying, guys, okay?
Words of wisdom, my friend.
All right.
This is true. Okay, GM,
now,
you got that loud and clear. Yeah.
Now, this whole EV thing. So you said something to me, which was, hey, man.
I kind of wonder if some of this driving this is to cut costs, go ahead and cut ties with some of these workers, let them roll because we're going to build electric vehicles.
And I said, well, Jay, that doesn't make any sense because that electric vehicle still has to be put together. And you said...
Yes, but it doesn't take as many parts as that gasoline engine.
And you also said, or it doesn't take as many
people.
And,
That's right,
and I was
folks.
like, oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah. And this is true. This is something that raised an interest. Again, when we started this conversation about the UAW and trying to understand the complexity of this whole thing, and it really is, people. It is and it isn't. It comes down to one thing: is somebody doesn't want to lose a bunch of money. And
it always comes down
to
right. And so now, but let's hold on a second. Let's go back. So this whole EV assembly situation.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the top of your head, nobody's. And I got your back on this. Nobody's going to hold you accountable if you're not accurate. This is just a best guess. Are we talking about an EV takes like 5% fewer parts than a gasoline engine? Are we talking about like it's like 30% fewer parts?
Okay, well, here's an example. Okay, and I read this. It says one analyst took apart a Chevrolet Bolt.
That's an electric vehicle.
Correct.
Okay.
And a Volkswagen Golf.
That's not an electric vehicle.
That is correct.
Okay.
He found that the Golf had 125 more moving parts than its electrical counterpart. 125 more moving parts than its electrical counterpart. What's more, the electric vehicle parts are often easier to put in place using automated machines. The UAW's own estimates that the move to electrification may cost 35,000 members to lose their jobs, and may not be the most scientific study ever done, but it's probably not far off.
Okay, so there you go. So now, all of a sudden, this is the conversation that nobody's putting in the news, which is, the UAW may be trying to do a proactive strike here to prevent that very thing, the automation of assembly.
That's right.
On these EVs.
Right.
You heard it here
That's
first,
right.
folks. I would like to come back to this podcast in my 1981 DeLorean in about 5 years and see, or jump forward 5 years and see if we predicted something there that could be onto something, right?
That's right. That's right, man. I tell you, it's interesting. I'm glad that I got your attention with that when we were talking about it. I've just completely lost all technical information in front of me.
Oh, did you get hit by a phaser?
I think I did, man.
Did you crash? Well, you're still. I'm still talking to you. I mean, that much is working. Did your recording die?
Can you imagine that? No, I'm good. I'm good there. I'm still living large on my Apple product, but it's my Windows product that is really giving me a hard time here.
Well, you just live right down the street from Bill Gates. Can't you just go knock on his door and get like one of his underlings to come over and help you out?
Yeah, there you go. So now I've got it back. So there you go.
Okay.
And and we were talking about the electric vehicles now. Let's just do this. Let me go through this real quick and just bring this
please
to light a little further. It says GM has attempted to appease the UAW with specific promises, including the construction of an electric battery plant in one of Ohio city's hardest hit by recent factory closings. But even this tactic has only confirmed the UAW's worst fears. The battery plant won't need as many workers, and GM would prefer to pay them less than what other workers make at plants that require more complicated assembly. Now, I've also unearthed a few things that, there's going to be a plant in Detroit that they were closing that's going to be used to produce an all-electric pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
They're also going to be bringing back an all-electric Hummer. And all of these things are slated to be released in 2022, 2023. the market of for electric vehicles it's amazing to me at how many are coming out, the talk, the chatter, and Tesla just opened the door wide open, man, when they came out with their whole business model, which, and they started out with the high price and they worked their way backwards to make it. They attracted you in that way, and their marketing strategy was to lessen the price and lessen the models so that it became more of a common thought process to even consider the electric vehicle. And with environmental impacts, which is a whole other topic that we could talk about, batteries versus gasoline, this alternative fuels again continue to be the biggest driver in this segment, and it's affecting the workforce tremendously in a number of ways. I feel that this is definitely impacting what's going on with this strike right now. Some impact there for sure.
Well, and so there's now, and I want to kind of just mention this, that I got a pop-up ad that I had this open to talk about it, but you people that are making these pop-ups that pop up when I'm trying to read news stories, there's a special place in hell for you, and I want to help escort you to that place any opportunity that I can find. Okay. So there are members of the UAW that are not on strike right now. Mm-hmm. Not everyone that's a UAW member is striking, as I understand this.
That is correct.
For example, our Ford's a member of the United Auto Workers, correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then General Dynamics, which is a big U.S. defense contractor, is also a UAW member. I think they were part of this strike, I think.
Yeah, GM's part of that defense contract.
And then Aramark, we've seen the guys that bring the coffee machines at work that have a you have the big company coffee pots that sit there on the big machines, and there's a guy that comes in and services them. Yeah, that's Aramark.
Office rugs, mops, and the UAW strike is not only. I mean, the UAW does not only encompass those people working on those assembly lines. It encompasses janitors, and you've got people that
Mack trucks are assembled under UAW workmanship, I believe. So I just wanted to. So this is a much bigger scenario than just General Motors, right? That's just one aspect. Although GM has their hands in a lot of things. Mm-hmm.
But right now it's the GM segment that is having these issues
because that's where they're trying to negotiate the changes for those employees.
That is
specifically with GM. Okay,
that is correct.
Right, I just wanted to make sure
good to clarify that and put that out there. So, So I mean, your thoughts after I brought that up. I mean, don't you see that same trend? I mean, since we've been podcasting, there has been something about a new electric vehicle coming out, or some new technology, or somebody working towards the range. For example, Ford announced it's working on this new, what they call the Ford Mach-E.
Right.
Ford Mustang crossover vehicle, 4-door hatchback that looks like a Mustang, but it's an all-electric vehicle that is going to have, I think they said, I wrote it down, 310-mile range.
Yeah. Well, we talked, that was a previous podcast topic of ours where we got into that a little bit, and they're still being pretty secretive about it. Little bit more comes out every month.
Yeah, but it's just this EV stuff is not going away, and I think that when you're a company like a big company like General Motors, and you're surveying the landscape, and you're looking at you're looking where
it's innovate or die.
That's right. That's exactly right. Innovate or die, which we've talked about with what Apple is not doing.
Now, Jay, now look, man. I mean, I just want to. Okay, we all know that there's just a big orchard of money trees somewhere. It's probably in Area 51, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you just when you need a little bit more cash for the next, union agreement, or, if you're Apple and you just need a little bit more cash flow for your movie studio, your TV studio, you just plant another one of seedling in the orchard, right? That's how this works, right? You
That's
just
exactly
grow
right,
another money tree.
Yeah.
Problem solved, right?
That's right. Oh yeah.
Okay. I mean,
well, Can I have one of those seeds?
It's either that or money does not grow on trees. And if you keep trying to squeeze from a turnip that can't produce anymore, the turnip there's not going to be any more turnips. Okay.
Right.
And then I don't know where I'm going with that analogy other than to say we're all going to be on a, vegetable deficiency diet or something. But yeah.
Yeah, just the more we talk about this, the more concerned I get for a lot of people.
If GM has to sell that family sedan or that SUV or that crossover at $29,500 to be profitable, and they can't afford to, because for them to make money on the sale of that automobile, they have to sell it at $34,500. Mm-hmm. Now you're forcing the issue. So if they have to pay, more in healthcare than they can afford, or they have to pay more in wages than they can afford, or they have to whatever. They've got to get it somewhere. So now where do we look? Well, we start what's not necessary in this automobile. Okay, right. Maybe we don't give them the quality seats or headrests, or God forbid, the understructure, the frame, whatever kind of unibody or whatever you're doing, right? Where
right.
Now maybe we make it out of a cheaper metal. Maybe, this stuff goes on. Like you think I'm, you guys that are listening, you think I'm just like pulling this out of, thin air. I'm not. They will find a way. Here, there's a famous controversy about the Corvette using the steering wheel out of a Chevy. It's the little one, the little bitty, the Chevy.
Chevette?
No, it was but it was the same steering wheel, and everybody was like, well, that's, you're cutting corners there for sure. It was the little, not the Aveo. I can't think of it, but
Chevrolet. Like the counterpart to like the Ford Fiesta. Or
yeah,
Festiva?
It was something like that, right?
Yeah.
And they were using the same steering, and guys were putting pictures of, here's my new Corvette with the steering wheel, and here's this little Tic Tac that cost $18,000, and they got the same steering wheel in them.
Right. That's insane,
that's
man.
To cut manufacturing cost.
Yeah, and I can tell you, as someone who, it's about it boils down to being competitive out there and gaining market share, and as one who has spent a number of my years in manufacturing, and trying to understand why certain competitors could sell cheaper.
The Cobalt.
Yeah.
It was the
Chevy
Cobalt.
Cobalt. Yeah.
That was it.
Oh, man. Well, then there's the Chevy Spark.
This was 2007. Sorry. I digress. Right. I didn't mean to
No, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that, I've been in part of that world. You find that companies that have the philosophy of integrity and quality and those sorts of things, they have a tougher time of staying in the game, because they're not willing to cut corners for the sake of they don't want to cut that for their reputation. But I can tell you, as one that's been in that side of the business, where I would analyze product to find out why it was so much cheaper, when you were peeling that orange, man, and you got down to the middle of it, you figured out why. Because it is not the same. It was made of a lesser quality. Now, it doesn't say that it, to err on what Keith was saying, it's not to say that cheaper car can't get you back and forth, because it will, but there are compromises that are made to your safety, to the life of the vehicle.
Yep, that's a big
Absolutely.
one. That's a big one. So maybe now this transmission is only going to get 75 or 80,000 miles before it dies versus the one that was getting 150,000 because it had ultimately sturdier metals in it, right?
Right. Example, like we've talked about before. You had a lawnmower repair or something, or chainsaw repair.
Yep.
And you take it to the mechanic to fix it, and he's like, man, you could probably just go buy one cheaper than me fixing this thing, and it's going to take a month because I'm so covered up.
Yep.
I mean, that's where we're at with this. And if you don't think that thought isn't going on right now at GM and Ford and Chrysler about building a vehicle that just gets you by so you can come back and buy another one, if that's that's where we're at.
Frugal engineering.
Absolutely. Higher wages, higher cost of living, higher housing cost, all of those things drive up everything. And automobiles, this industry, the automobile industry, manufacturing industry, they're only going to be able to take it for so long.
And look,
has
I'm
to
not.
give.
Neither one of us are anti-union. I'm not on here going, look, this UAW thing is bad. I'm just saying, look, if you guys think that, if your stance on this is that the UAW needs to come in here and clean General Motors out and get every single last penny that they can out of them, I don't know that that's the wisest course of action because you're going to drain the bank. I mean, there's got to be a middle ground. There has got to be a middle ground where it's fair. And if it's not fair, then somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, GM is going to have to give something up that they don't want to, and vice versa. But there has to be compromise on both sides in order to have that balance to keep it going, because otherwise you're going to, there's not going to be a lot of jobs to go around.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, there's technology out there that will allow these guys to continue to producing vehicles without a human body there, or not as many human bodies, I should say. You're going to always have to have some human intervention, no doubt about it. But trust me, the automation technology that's out there, and we talked about this before we came on air, how quickly technology advances. It's in a shorter amount of time now than it was when we went from the industrial age to where we're at now. Just think about televisions, for example. Televisions, as we now know them, a 65-inch television right now, top of the line, great picture, just awesome. You could buy them for $600. Well, 8 years ago, same type of product, great picture, different time, $3,000.
So what you're saying is that phaser that we started out talking about, which is like $25 billion right now, if I wait about 5 years, I can get it for a cool like $100,000.
Oh, absolutely.
And it'll fit in the trunk of my Chevy
Blazer.
Blazer.
In the trunk. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Your Blazer or your Ford Mach-E, whatever one you have.
Right. So, okay. Yeah.
So, but we have slowly left little skittles around for you guys, man. When it comes to this EV thing, man. You look at Ford buying into Rivian. You look at what GM is. They put $7.7 billion investment into the advancement of technology to get further and further in. And I forget how many models they're saying by 2025 they want to have out there, but it's a significant amount that you're going to see on the car lot.
Right.
As battery technology gets better and the ranges get longer on these things, it's going to be very, very prominent. Now, I did have someone that I was having the same conversation with who said to me, he says, I don't see how that's ever going to happen. How in the world are they going to have charging stations everywhere? Well, local Walmart Supercenter that I've been into here has like a whole row of them at your convenience.
That's very binary in terms of the thought process. I'm not trying to be, on the friend, but this is something that I try to teach my son is we have these blinders on, and if we can't see it in front of us, then it must not be possible.
Right.
There are already charging stations everywhere in the United States. They're called RV parks, and they all have 50 amp plugs right now.
Right. Well, and your house is a
Yeah.
charging station. So, I mean, my son drives Volt.
Yep.
He plugs it in every day, man, when he gets in, from work. And now granted, he's only in traffic for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. I think the distance to travel is around 30 miles. I mean, that's nothing from a range standpoint to have one. So, it may be that you're going to see more and more, which makes complete sense from an environmental impact, to have more and more electric vehicles on the road, especially in city, where you have a tremendous amount of access readily at your hands, at your fingertips to charge these things. It just makes more sense to have those. Less noise, less pollution. So I'm just saying, you're going to wake up one day and it's going to be. I mean, China is they're putting electric vehicles on the road like tenfold what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So we're really behind in regards to EVs as far as an acceptance of these things. So just watch our neighbors.
All right. So parting thoughts. Do you have anything that you would like to add on this this whole UAW situation that we haven't already addressed?
I would like to just say to everybody that if you are in the UAW, part of the UAW, you're a member, it's just, we're counting on you. The industry's counting on you, man.
No pressure.
Because no pressure, but I can just piece of advice to anybody is that just kind of keep your eyes wide open at what's going on and just understand that this is a very complex matter. And it's going to go on. Compromise, man. Compromise. That's kind of my party note for both GM and the UAW.
Okay.
You got to get there. You got to reach there.
And I would like to say to anyone that's assembling a Chevy Blazer, hola, amigo. Do you want to do the sort of recap of our how to get to us, or do you want me to do that, or you want to rock paper scissors for it, or how do you want to?
No, I can do it, folks. Right. Man, look. Here's the deal.
I'm a little disappointed we didn't do the rock. Okay, go ahead.
What? Well, we can do that afterwards.
Yeah,
man,
right.
So yeah, we want your support, folks. Please come visit us on our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. Ring the bell and subscribe. That would be great. You can reach that by simply going to partscounterguru.com and click on the podcast links or the little YouTube icon and get over there. Subscriptions are free to you, but they're priceless to us, so please do that. But you can also go over to other podcast platforms, which is you guys should see Keith. He's just
if you're listening right now, you're missing out.
Any of you who have small children that are sitting in the back seat and you can see them in the rearview mirror goofing off, that's kind of what you're going to get. But anyway, check us out on all of our platforms and subscribe. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, I think too. Tune in. All of those guys. Also, don't forget that we are an Amazon affiliate. If you see something that you like that we mention on our podcast, we'll always have a mention on the podcast link for you for that product and many others. And you can just click through and
so if I go to our website, it would be some obscure, like it wouldn't be named mentioned on the podcast or anything like that, would it?
No, probably mentioned on the toilet.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, it's actually a tab that says mentioned on the podcast, right? and we have an Amazon banner in the top right-hand corner. If you're going to Amazon, please click through that first.
Yep, it's up there, guys. It's all pretty.
I'm seething
pretty
with sarcasm today. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's my world. Thank you. But so when you use that, when you go through us to click through and go to Amazon, just let you guys know that's completely transparent. We don't know who you are, and that's none of our business. But every little bit helps us. So just please utilize that if you will. So that's really about all I have for you, man.
All right. Well,
I'm I'm ready for a beer now.
Tune in next time when I talk about my new favorite IPA, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, go. Sorry.
I was going to mention one other thing too, folks. Keep your eye on us. We're going to be at SEMA.
Oh wow! Yeah. Good.
Apex and SEMA
When
this
is
year.
that?
That is November 4th through the 9th.
We're going to be doing. I would expect that we're going to be doing quite a few live broadcasts. Those will pop up on the Facebook feed and on the YouTube feed. And keep an eye on our website at partscounterguru.com for specific information on those. Good catch, Jay.
Yeah. Just need to keep people alert to that. It's going to be fun. We're excited. We'll be roaming the halls. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. I'm quite confident that we're going to be spending 90% of our time at the SEMA show versus the Apex side. But we will hit Apex as well for a little while. But SEMA is going to be where we'll probably headquarter ourselves. So, all
right.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. It's going to be good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. I mean, other than like right now, but yeah. All right. So until next time, let's see. That is Jay over there. Wait, over there? Over there. Sorry. Over there. I am Keith. Words of wisdom. If you keep your face always towards the sunshine, shadows will always fall behind you. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
And you might want to look over your shoulder after that.
Three, 2. Oh, that was great. All right, ready?
3, 2, 1.
2, 1.